Like strawberries and cream, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers were a perfect pairing. The greatest dancing partnership cinema has ever known. They worked their magic through 10 films made in the 1930s and 40s, first coming together for the 1933 film Flying Down to Rio. They weren't the main stars, and Rogers was only cast at the last moment. But their scenes together stole the entire movie, and studio bosses realized they had struck gold. Astaire was the ultimate dancer. Rogers brought out the best in him. Katharine Hepburn once said, "He gives her class, she gives him sex appeal." Both scored massive successes on their own. Astaire was an icon of entertainment, respected for being a dance innovator. Ginger Rogers won the Best Actress Oscar in 1941 for her role, her straight role in Kitty Foyle. And for a time, she became Hollywood's highest paid star. In truth, they were wary of being forever looked on as a double act. And although Rogers once said she adored Astaire, she also conceded they were never bosom buddies. But the American public fell in love with them, with many believing they were a couple off-screen as well as on. The pair were never interviewed together on British television, so we start with an encounter between Ginger Rogers and Cliff Mitchell-Moore from 1968, which took place at her home in Coldwater Canyon, Los Angeles.
They tell me you fixed the best ice cream soda in Beverly Hills, is that right?
You want an ice cream soda?
Yeah.
You really want an ice cream
They
soda?
tell me you fixed the best one
Funny thing, I just happen to have one almost ready for you.
With chocolate?
Huh? With chocolate? All right, with chocolate coming up. Chocolate. And I want you to know that this will cost you about 15 cents. And if you get this down in the city of Beverly Hills, you would pay 65 to 85 cents for it. And I want you to leave your money here at the counter before you leave. Or I'll take just a smile.
Will you?
Here we go. I do like lots of this
Lots of that.
Lots of that. All right,
I absolutely adore that.
Here we go. Here we go.
That's the bit I like.
Isn't that lovely?
I'd love one of those at home. What will the children do with that at home?
And there you go. And here is a little straw. And if it doesn't have enough chocolate in it, I love lots of chocolate, but I'm also afraid to put too much in it because I love chocolate.
It's so hot outside that I think I want to get cool before we go outside.
I don't blame you. Chocolate enough?
That's gorgeous.
Is that gorgeous?
Yeah.
She was christened Virginia Catherine, but that was too much of a name for her cousin, who called her just Ginger. She was born in Independence, Missouri, and she always seemed destined for the stage. At the age of 4, she was playing the part of a war orphan. At 16, she won the Texas State Charleston Championship, and it was then that her career really began. Her mother, Layla, journalist and screenwriter, became her first full-time manager, guiding and guarding those early days. In 1930, Ginger Rogers was on Broadway in the Gershwin musical Girl Crazy. That was September 1930, and it was from this success that she went on to Hollywood. 45 films later, she won an Oscar for the title role in Kitty Foyle. Another 28 films later, she was back again on the Broadway stage, this time in Hello, Dolly. And now she's moving across from the New York to the London stage, from Dolly to Maine. It's been a long, distinguished, and successful career. But how tough was the going along the way?
I have come from a very hard school. I've had to work very hard for what has come to me. If I got a part in a film, it was always a very difficult role. If I've had a dance to do, it's always been a very hard one to do. I've thought so, and other people who have thought so too. But it has not been dropped in my lap like a handful of gold. No, I come from the hard school of learning in this business.
You were mentioning earlier on that your mother handled a great deal of your business. Are you also a good businesswoman now?
Well, I think so. I think I'm a fairly good businesswoman. My business is really my work. And outside of having a number of hobbies, which I have to pass the time away, my work is really acting. I enjoy it.
What does money mean to you? I mean, you're enormously successful.
It's a means by which one may fulfill one's next desire or obligation. In the good sense, I never have wanted to be the richest woman in the world. Never have wanted it, and I've never wanted to be married to the richest man in the world. I've never had any of those great. I've never wanted to have the greatest, the most beautiful car in the world. I don't want material things. I want those things that are needful in life, but not necessarily the most valuable thing according to dollars and cents. Does that answer your question?
That answers it absolutely perfectly. You don't surprise me in some ways. But now, I want to come to the fact that you are a legend in your own time. You will know that so many people remember you for the one great thing, if for nothing else, and this must please you no end, and that is this tremendous partnership that you had with Fred Astaire.
I didn't come to ball the jack. I didn't come to do the Suzy Q or do the bottom they call black. I didn't come to do Big Apple. I didn't come to do the shag.
Well, honey, here I am to do the yam because the yam is in the bag. Yeah.
Enjoy working with Fred Astaire because he, like you, is a consummate professional.
You're talking about, yes, sir. When you see a workman, you see Mr. Astaire. You say, is he hard to work with and am I hard to work with? If you like people who like their work and who work at their work, then we're hard workmen. He is, I am, and we're very definite about what we like and what we dislike. And if that's considered hard to work with, then you've got the answer to your question.
Have you ever even danced a dozen steps with him since the last film you've made?
Yes.
Have
you? Yes. The last film we made was The Barclays at Broadway, and it was made at MGM in color. It was the first color film we ever made. Then we've seen each other quite frequently. The time that we danced together for one brief minute was the Academy Award. Didn't it play in London? A film of it?
When you and
Fred and I
presented the prizes?
Yes. Did it play there?
No, it didn't. Tell me what happened.
Well, we got on the stage, backstage, waiting for because we had been chosen to, both of us, present an award together.
This I remember,
at the
yes.
Academy. So they came to me and said, I think you'll be on in about 45 minutes. And I said, well, where is Mr. Astaire? And they said, well, he'll be around here in a minute. So he came around, and I said, wouldn't it be fun if when we went on the stage, wouldn't that just be great if you and I just did a little something like that, and then walked up to and he's very shy. Fred is very shy, and everything is, from the very beginning, no, I don't think so, no, that's Fred. No. So I said, well, okay, I just thought it was a good idea. And then he walked away, and he went across the stage, and the music was playing, and I could hear the time was coming close to our appearance together. And we were supposed to come, he was on the one stage, he was stage left, and I was stage right. We were to cross each other, grabbed our hands, and walk straight down to the podium. So about 3 minutes before, he came in, and he said, I thought that over. That might be kind of fun, really, it might be. He said, why don't, he said, what do we do? I said, well, I don't know, what do you say? What do we do? It was fun. It was kind of like, it was like a big secret we were having together. So we worked out a little kind of nothing. He'd grab me by the hand and whirl me, and then we just walked right down to the podium. Well, we did just that when it came, because no one had known, the producer, the director, no one in the whole place knew that we were going to do this silly thing. So he came stage left, and I came stage right. We crossed each other, and he grabbed my hand, and he whirled me into a whirl, and we both went into a whirl, and then quietly we walked down to the podium. Well, the house just came down. They were so adorable to us. It was a lovely minute. I enjoyed it more than anybody.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was it a very tough life? One always sees it in Hollywood films, when everyone reads about it. One always reads that it was a very hard, tough life going around America.
Well, I think the stage life is a very hard life. I don't know, there are many tough lives for people, like the fight ring, I imagine, is a very tough life for a man. I think the stage and the theatrical life is a very tough life for a woman. I think it's not quite as difficult for a man.
When were you first asked to come to Hollywood? Do you remember how it happened?
When I first came to Hollywood?
Yeah.
Okay, I came to Hollywood to do a film after I'd been in a show in New York, a motion picture called The Tip-Off, I believe it was. And after I had been in a musical comedy in New York, a musical comedy titled Girl Crazy. So I came from there. I'd made 5 pictures in New York, and then I came here and did 2 pictures independently. I'd been under contract to Paramount before that, while I was in the show in New York. But my coming here was kind of eye-opening, because I had never seen all these beautiful things. This marvelous California was unlike Texas, where I had been raised, and it was unlike a number of the other states that, like New York State, is not half as beautiful as this.
Quite unlike New York.
Quite
yes.
unlike New York, and they don't see snow unless you go to the mountaintops. But my first films here, I was just, I just left my teens, and it was all kind of, I was big-eyed and bushy-tailed about what's all this about, you see. I found out. Very interesting life.
Very, very interesting.
Interesting life.
What was it like in those, in the mid-30s here in Hollywood? I mean, one coming here now can't really imagine it. I go around and I can't really imagine what it was like.
Well, I think I think they called it quite accurately the golden years of motion pictures, because it seems to me that from what little I have known of what has gone on before, excuse me, it seems to me that it was rather the lush years of the motion picture business, and I'm very grateful to have seen those days, because they were quite beautiful. There were lovely parties given, and all of the people I had ever heard of were present, and like Charlie Chaplin and Ronald Colman and all of these marvelously wonderful people.
Were you a bit starstruck then? I gather.
Actually, no.
Weren't you?
I've never, no, but I'd like watching a circus. I sit back and enjoy it. I don't go to the circus because I'm mad for it, but if it comes to my house, I think it's fun.
You were talking about these parties. Are you a social creature?
No. I am not. I am not a social creature at all, but as I said earlier in our discussion, I came here when I was quite tender in years, and I was impressed by just being in California. I was very impressed by the whole thing, and I was impressed that I was learning a profession too. Don't forget, I was learning something all along the way. I was learning more about what I was involved in, motion pictures, and I think it's the most fascinating business.
How strong an influence on you was your mother? Because I was reading about you, I was reading about your mother as well. Now, how much of an influence was she?
Well, I think she was a little more than usual, and incidentally, she's arriving here in California today. She's just driving down from my ranch in Oregon, and she's arriving here today, so I'll be very happy to see her.
I must say, that's something I like dropped into a conversation on my way from my ranch in Oregon.
Well,
sorry, I interrupted you about your mother.
She's driving down today. Well, she's been a very great influence on my life because her directness, she goes right to the heart of a matter, and she's taught me that. And up until those times when I was not really involved in business, she would handle all the business affairs for me, and from her I've gotten a great deal of those things that are worthwhile in life.
Theatrical mums, theatrical mothers are always sort of portrayed as people who are driving their little daughters on.
Yes, but Cliff, this is not this kind of mother. If you knew her, and I hope you'll get a chance to meet her today, you will see that she's not that kind of a woman at all. She's a bright, very alert woman, knows picture business and show business as though she manufactured it herself, you know. And she has given great inspiration and great hope, and taught many people who are now very important in our business. Lucille Ball, she had Lucille on in her little school over at RKO. She had Lucille Ball and Tyrone Power, and I could sit, I'm very bad at names. I never remember them.
Those two will do.
Those are they're quite good, you know. That's a quite good group, you know.
That's bad for not even name dropping, is it?
And she's done a great deal in bringing some of the newcomers at that time, who are now our well-seasoned stars, to the fore. Fought for Lucille like she was her own child.
But you never ever felt in your life that she was really driving you personally on, that she was...
No. She was not that, and is not that kind of a woman. No. She is very direct, and she's to the point, and if she felt I didn't have the talent to do what was meant for me to do, she would grab me by the scruff of my neck, and out I would go, and she would find something to fill that place. And
are you amenable to that kind of discipline?
Well, I think if you have some respect for the person who is bringing this into your experience, you either follow it or you fall by the wayside. You have to respect someone with knowledge.
Finally, before you go, I want to ask you about your painting, because this is something. What do you get out of your painting?
Well, I think it's the most satisfying experience to be an amateur painter, because you lose the world, you lose all of the little itsy-bitsies that trouble us all, you know, now and then, and you can just put it all behind you. I enjoy thoroughly. It's like listening to a symphony for me to be able to take a canvas and put fresh oil on it, and then start just of course, I do a lot of things with the knife, as we call it, with the knife. And I have my little painting down in the front there called the Anniversary Bouquet, which I'd like to show you, incidentally, is all done in knife, and it's a still life of some anthurium. So what do I get out of it? I just absolutely adore it. I can lose days and weeks if I were allowed to paint and paint alone. A night would be the same with me. Just put a little food under the door.
It wasn't until the 1970s that Ginger's on-screen partner, Fred Astaire, gave an interview to the BBC. Although in his 70s himself by then, he was still working. Nominated for an Oscar for the Towering Inferno film, appearing with Gene Kelly in That's Entertainment Too, and dropping in on Michael Parkinson, who had Astaire at the top of his wish list for years.
I think I must establish, first of all, Fred, because I do happen to know you don't like being interviewed, do you?
Well, with you, I love it. You know, I mean, I'm sure I will. I'm not kidding.
But you once had a reputation in America, didn't you? You were once nominated, I think, by the gossip columnists, one of the 10 least cooperative stars in Hollywood.
Yes, I was, and several people were very envious of me for that. I remember Ronald Colman was furious because he wanted to be first. And, of course, that goes way, way back. But it was all in fun anyway, because there was nothing, you know, all those things you read in the paper, and they sound a little rough, but they're not. No. They're not rough.
I was interested also in reading your biography to find out that, in fact, your sister, Adele, had a nickname for you, which was Moaning Minnie.
Well, I know that, but she wasn't the only one. It was some friends of mine, some fellow friends of mine who called me because I was worrying about things all the time. And whenever there's a job to do in showbiz, you worry about it. And they used to kid me about it. So I got used to that. That was so long ago, I haven't heard that one for a long time.
How long, in fact, have you been in show business?
Well, you mean how long I actually have? Well, I'll tell you. See, I started at the age of 4.5, appearing professionally. And if you add that up to now, I have been performing professionally for 71 years.
70?
Thank you. I didn't say it for that purpose. Thank you so much. It broke me up when I thought about it. Oh my gosh, this can't be. Yeah. But it is actually so, because I was born in 1899, and then at 4.5, I went to New York, and it was no, I appeared at about 4.5. But I went to New York when I was about 4, and then there was some kind of a professional appearance that occurred around that time, so I added it all up, and that's what it is. So
well, I interviewed Bing Crosby recently, and he thought he was a veteran, and he'd only been 50 years.
Oh, such a child, for heaven's sake. It's ridiculous.
In fact, I mean, you were quite old, weren't you, by professional standards, when you went to the movies? You were, what, 34, weren't you, or something like that?
Well, yeah, it was in 1933, and that made me 34.
Yeah. One thinks of, you can think of half a dozen of, more perhaps, outstanding solo routines that you've done in movies, doing all kinds of different things with different props and things. Well, what about one of my favorite sequences of yours from a film called Carefree, which is the one where you hit the golf balls? I mean, it was an astonishing bit of precision. Before we talk about that, before we explain it, let's have a look. We've got a clip here. As I say, it's from a film called Carefree, and it really is an extraordinary piece of, well, imagination and execution. It's coming up now.
Thank you.
incredible.
I really loved doing that number. Had a lot of practice. One of the things I remember particularly, in order to keep the balls in the view of the camera, we had a tree the location we did this was a tree in a big tree background, so you could see this little white ball. Because some people think it was done tricky, and it wasn't. But I was hitting them, and they were going straight, but they were going up a little too quick, and out of the camera lens thing. So the camera, I said, hey, can't you keep those a little lower, please? And I said, look, I got enough troubles hitting these guys. But so anyway, I flattened my swing, and I kept them down, and it worked. Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm glad you liked it. Thanks very much.
Oh, super, yeah. A lot of these numbers that you danced for these people who wrote them, you were dressed up in what became your sort of trademark, the top hat, the white tie and tails. 2 questions. How much is that really you?
Well, I don't like wearing a full-dress suit. I hate it. Well, I had so much of it that people thought that I was born in it. I began to too. But it was necessary for the thing we were doing at that point, and I actually haven't worn it anywhere in a film for quite a long time.
No.
And I had to wear it to a couple of shindigs I went to recently, but I just don't like it. It's stiff and, you know.
It made you dance very well. Let's have a go.
Well, I worked for that.
Well, we've got a clip here. Let's have a look at it. Probably it was the last time that you appeared on screen in that rig, and that was in Blue Skies.
Well, that isn't a full-dress suit. The one you're talking about, it's a tail.
Let's have a look. You enjoy watching that?
Well, it interests me to see it again. I haven't seen it lately, and I mean, I know what's there because I've always remembered it was very complicated to get it, all that stuff, the screens, the separate screens. I did one thing alone, and then I had to change the set so that the one line would go this way, and that was another shot, and then the other line would go that way. In other words, there's a multiple amount
of you on the screen.
Yeah, of split screens put all together. It's a very complicated process. It wasn't all ready to look finished until about 3 months after it was made, and I was very anxious to know how they could ever get time together so well. The wonderful department of special effects could get that all synced properly. That's what I worried about mostly.
You knock hell out of your canes, don't you?
Oh, I've broken a lot of them. Sometimes on purpose I got mad or something because I wasn't getting something I was trying to get, and then I was like, you know.
I'll tell you another slight technical thing that always puzzled me whenever I see that sequence, and that's how do you get that cane off the floor to shoot into your hand? Is that trick photography?
Well, it's not trick photography. It's a mechanical thing. There was a little hole in the ground on the stage. It had a little thing that shot up, and when the cane was there, it went like that and came up on rhythm. The fellow had to, out there, had to press the button just right. We had to have a musician to do it because the timing had to be just a fraction ahead of that beat. Because if you'd hit it on the beat, it would have been a little late and thrown things out. So he had to go and start landing up in my hand, you see.
Extraordinary.
So things like that take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And you pray all the time that they're going to work.
That was supposed to be a retirement movie, that wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
announced at the time that after that you'd finished. Why was that? Why at that time were you thinking of retiring?
Well, I think everybody gets that feeling. They come to, I said, well, look, I've done about all I can do now, and I think I want to quit. And I actually did decide to retire then. And, well, then something happened. I think it was, you know, this back a number of years. I can't tell you exactly, but I think it was. So I know Gene Kelly was doing a movie called Easter Parade, and he fell out of it because he'd hurt his leg, and then they got after me and said, "Would I come over and take it over and start over again and do it with me?" And then he called me, and it looked like a good show, and so I did it. That's all. So I was back in business again. And so then I stayed again for a while, and then I had ideas again and quit again. I think a lot of people do that. I know a number of people that say, oh, I can't do anymore. They can't think of anymore. You think you can't, and then maybe you can't. I don't know. But
Your mother wanted you to retire, in fact, when you were 35, didn't
oh,
she?
my mother, yeah. My mother wanted me to, she said, Sonny, I think you should retire when you're 34. I don't know why she didn't say 35, but she's 34. I said, why? She said, well, you started so early, and that's you 4.5, and you worked so many years, and it's about time. But oh, she's such a wonderful woman. My goodness gracious, she had these cute ideas, and I said, well, I'm afraid it isn't going to be possible. So that was all there was of that.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Well, I'm not going to ask you a question. The question I'm not going to ask you is, who was your favorite dancing partner? Because you're not going to give me an answer to that, are you?
Well, I can't, because I've always said my favorite dancing partner is Bing Crosby. That gets me out.
Why is it, though? I mean, Gene Kelly's exactly the same. You won't talk about your dancing partners. Why is that?
Well, it's difficult because the gals are all so good, and you just don't want to say, gee whiz, I like that one better than the other one. And it isn't, he had the same viewpoint as I just couldn't do it properly. I mean, each one had something special. And to say which is the best, I said, well, I really don't know. Some are more effective than others and all that.
Yes.
When it comes to actual dancing, there are certain ways and styles and techniques that do show. I could go listing a whole lot of names, but I don't want to get any priorities in here because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings about it.
But did your attitude as a perfectionist, this warrior that you've admitted yourself being...
Excuse me, I must say, Ginger was certainly one, the most effective partner I had. Everybody knows that. It was a whole other thing, what we did. I can't say that. I just want to pay tribute to Ginger because we did so many pictures together, and believe me, it was a value to have that gal. Woo! Yeah. She had it. She was just great.
Yeah, there are all sorts of rumors about you and Ginger, weren't there, in Hollywood?
That we were fighting, huh?
Yes, that you were fighting. Yeah.
Listen, that was the biggest nonsense ever. You told me, we were talking before, you told me there was somebody who said that there was a 25-year war
between you and your dancing
partners.
Yes.
Ridiculous. Absolutely nothing like. Ginger and I never had any fight. I never had any. When Ginger kicked me down the stairs, I loved it. I really did. I said, please do that again. And then she was just the same way. She could hardly hardly wait for me to kick her in the ankle, No, actually, seriously, we never had a fight, Ginger. Never, never. There were questionable conversations about material and say, well, I don't like it, or I do like it, well, I think we shouldn't, or we don't. Oh, yes and no. But you don't fight. I can't fight with the people I work with. I just couldn't do it. And it didn't happen, but the press liked it that way, so we laughed about it.
Well, let's talk about one partner that, in fact, you can talk about without hurting his or her feelings, because it happens to be a hat rack, which you used in a film called Royal Wedding, didn't you?
Right.
Yeah. Let's have a look at that clip first of all, then we'll talk about it in a minute. It's a sequence, as I say, from a film called Royal Wedding, and it's you in a gymnasium, and you start doing all kinds of weird things with the equipment there. watched that play back there. Do you remember actually making it?
Well, a lot of it I really did.
Really?
I didn't, because I saw it earlier today, as you remember,
Yes.
and I remarked about. I really was surprised at about probably at least a third of it. At least a third of it. I knew that there were some things happened in the gymnasium because that was a part of the plot of the thing. I went up there to, I don't know what it was about, but I was there to exercise. So I pick up this hat rack as the making believe it's the girl and dancing her around. But I didn't remember some of the stuff. It makes me laugh when I see it. But I don't remember kicking that punching bag. That made me laugh. All of a sudden, that's just silly looking.
When you used to... Yes, it would have been easier to have gone like that, actually.
Yeah, nuts. But see, everything happens when you get something, an idea working, and there's all this stuff around. I remember one thing. I don't want to go on with this too long if you're...
Carry on.
But I know in the gymnasium, the scene, there wasn't enough stuff to get, so I said, well, get me some of those things, and then get me that horse, and we'd get something for that. And so we worked until we got enough that I thought would be, to make a lot of number out of it, you see. So, but you start off with one idea, and then if it gets going, you get a lot of things.
Well, one thing, of course, there you didn't have a problem with. I mean, you couldn't possibly have a problem with a partner like that. One problem you didn't have there that you must often have had with lady partners were the sort of problem of what they wore. Because we'll see you dancing around with girls in incredible creations. It must have been difficult at times.
Well, sometimes they had things that just wouldn't work. There'd be a whole lot of dress, and you couldn't see the feet or anything, and I'd step on the thing and tear it or something, and we'd find that out before we started shooting. You'd find out at the dress rehearsal or at a costume fitting or something. And you always would ask me to come and see it and see if it worked, and then I'd say, oh, no, sorry, baby, you got to do something. And then they're always very wanting to do what would work, too, because they realize it. But one or two things did happen that were funny. And with Ginger, she had a dress on with a very heavy beaded sleeves. They were way down here, and they were waving around, and sort of long dress with beads all over. Weighed a ton of stuff. And I was doing this dance with her and getting it done, and she spinning around. And the very first take, this thing hit me across here, and I honestly didn't remember anything else about what it. We just kept dancing until the thing was over, and I kept saying, "Oh, boy, I would have to finish it now because nobody has said cut." The director didn't say cut. He didn't say it because it happened probably just in back where he was turning around. But anyway, I was groggy from this thing, partly anyway. And then we finished that whole thing, and they wanted to take another for protection, and then I think we took about 10 or 12 takes of this difficult dance. I think it was called Let's Face the Music and Dance. And we decided to stop working because we were too tired and come in the next day after doing all these other takes. And believe me, we really wore ourselves out. We went to look at the rushes. They got some quick rushes to see it on the film. And the first take was the one we used in the picture.
That's always the case, isn't it?
The first one. And I, good gracious. I didn't know, and I couldn't even see where I got hit, you see.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and then there was a feather thing with Ginger, which became kind of a legend around. She had a feather dress that, like a snowstorm, it took off when it was in cheek to cheek. And there were feathers in this thing, and then she, take after take, the screen was full of feathers, and it was like snowing. And then we'd have to stop, sweep up the feathers, and finally, when she molted enough, we were able to go on with the dance, and it was fine. No, but then, because some people made that was a fight. It was no fight. We were roaring with laughter about it.
That same celebrated dance, cheek to cheek, from Top Hat, and those rumours that Astaire and Rogers didn't get on, came up again in 1991. Ginger Rogers was in London promoting her autobiography and gave this interview to Selina Scott.
What do you think of when you see that clip again after all these years?
Well, I look at it with gratitude because that was part of my growing theatrically.
Mm-hmm. What about all these rumours that you didn't get on with Fred Astaire, that you hated him and he hated you? What
Well, it
was
was
all that
like
about?
all rumors are. It was just a rumor, nothing else. And it was started by the publicity department of RKO Studios. They wanted to keep our name in the paper so people would talk about us, so people would go to see our movies. And so they thought up this thing.
Why didn't they say you were romantically involved with him? That would have been a good ruse, wouldn't it, at that time?
Well, I think they would have been shot by Mrs. Astaire.
She's as bad as that, was she?
Well, she was very insistent with her husband about what happened when he was on the set. And she never wanted him to kiss the leading lady. That was an agreement that he made with the producer so they would be happy at home.
Were you ever romantically involved with Fred Astaire?
No, I had a date with him once many years before we danced together. I danced with him, excuse me, at a date that we had. But then I left New York City for Hollywood, and after that I didn't have a chance to see him until he arrived at RKO Studios by the insistence of our producer, Pandro Berman. He had been to New York and had seen Fred in The Gay Divorcee, the show, the stage show, and he thought that'd be a good thing to buy, to give to the two of us to do.
A lot of people, you see, forget that you were in fact a far bigger star than he was when you two got together. It was billed as Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, and yet it should really have been the other way around, Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire.
You forget one thing. It's a man's world.
Did that bug you then?
Still does.
There was a chemistry, though, between the two of you. There was something going on there. What was it? Where did it come from, this?
It was just the love of the dance. We both loved to dance, and we both loved to express ourselves in the dance.
But I remember reading that your feet bled at times with the work that you were doing.
Well, we danced up steps, about 18 or 19 steps, and there was a dance on the main floor previous to that step. And then we had to dance up the stairs, and up the top of the stairs, we did a lot of whirls. And when I finished doing one take of that after rehearsals and so on, they said, "Look, what's the matter with your foot?" And I had blisters on my feet from dancing so much, in new shoes that had just been dyed to match the dress, and they were still wet.
Have you suffered physically because of this dance? I mean, you think of footballers and ballet dancers, and they finish dancing, their bones start creaking and seizing up. I mean, have you ultimately suffered because of it?
Well, I don't think I really suffered anything. I think I just had a bloody blister every once in a while.
Your bones are still good. When did you last dance in public? It can't be long ago. No? When was it? Can you remember when you last danced in public?
You mean on the stage?
On the stage, yes.
Oh, yes. It was right here in London, actually. I was at the Palladium with my show, the Ginger Rogers Show.
Yes. Are you content, very briefly, are you content with your life now, Ginger?
Yes, I am.
And the book has helped to get a lot of it out?
Well, it was great in writing the book. I could go back and memorize. I remembered all the things that happened, and in that memory, I sort of played it over and over like you play back on the screen. It was great fun. I really enjoyed it. I catch myself laughing at some of the memories I had,
Well, Ginger, it's been our pleasure having you here to share your memories with us tonight.
Well, thank you, Selina.
Thank you.
It was lovely to be here, darling.
Thank you very much
so
indeed.
Thank you.
Ginger Rogers died 4 years after that interview, aged 83. Fred Astaire had died in 1987, aged 88. And they were both buried in the same memorial cemetery in California. On each occasion, their passing had people once again remembering and praising the magical chemistry of their unique partnership. Astaire, everyone agreed, was one of the greatest dancers of all time. And Rogers, as one famous quote declared, did everything Astaire could do, but backwards and in heels.